I'm Dr. Ryan Abell from Movement Fix. This is Movement Fix Monday. What we're going to look at in this video is how to stretch your hip flexors in a way that actually works on your hip flexors and doesn't just stress out your lower back. The problem that people have when they stretch out their hip flexors, and we have spiny, my friend's spiny because I'm at his gym or their gym and clinic area. The problem is we want to get hip joint extension in order to work on the hip flexors. But if you don't pay attention to how you're executing the stretch or the mobilization or whatever you're trying to do, it is super easy to just do a ton of low back extension. And so if you think about what is the limitation of the stretch, when you're doing the stretch, what is the tissue that is limiting the range of motion? Ideally, if you're trying to stretch the hip flexors would be the limitation of the range of motion. But if you're not paying attention, it's easy to jam the bones in your back, like you can see here where my finger is in this facet joint. If I extend my low back, those facet joints close. Like, okay, it was dislocated, but now you can see it. So I can put my finger in this facet joint, but if you lean backwards, those facet joints close, and that can be the thing that ends up limiting the range of motion. So we have to set this up correctly and then execute it correctly to hit the hip flexors and not just either the, some part of the hip joint or the low back facet joints. So here's how we do this. Get a pad and put it on the ground. Bend your knee. Put this knee, put this leg forward a little bit. Then what you're going to do is take your hips and roll them under. Now you might need to squeeze your butt to do that. You could also kind of crunch your abs. You almost want to go into a little bit of lumbar flexion while you do this. Then what I'll do from here is just rock forward, and I already feel a huge stretch here. And this is not very far. Typically what people do is they want to go as far as they can because they think that if I go as far as humanly possible into the stretch, that it's better, but that's not true. You want to try to isolate it to the thing that you're trying to actually work on. So you tuck your hips under, squeeze your butt, crunch, and then rather than thinking about doing this, think about from here to here is just going forward and backward, and you're rotating around your hip as you do it. So forward and backward, forward, backward. That's it. If I was doing this stretch to prepare for split jerks or whatever, this is what it would look like. Very subtle. Now we have another model here, a hip and a knee. So if you're down here like this, you're just literally trying to do this. If you can imagine the spine coming up here, what you don't want to do is be bending that. This whole thing is moving forward and backward, and you're trying to rotate about or around the hip joint. That's it. If you do it that way, you're going to be most effective at targeting the hip flexors and not the ligaments of the hip or the joints of the low back. So if you're working on your hip flexors and you're rolling out your quads, you're trying to get some stretching and get some hip extension, that is how you can properly execute a kneeling hip flexor stretch to maximize the effectiveness. So that's what I got for you guys this week on Movement Fix Monday, how to best stretch your hip flexors in a kneeling position without stressing your back. So, hey, if you guys like this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We have new videos every Monday for Movement Fix Monday. And make sure to follow us on Instagram at The Movement Fix. And of course, you can find all of our training programs at themovementfix.com/programs. And we have workshops coming up all over the place. Hope to see you there. All right, I'll see you guys next week.